on this issue of consciousness alteration. The well of language has been poisoned, where you cannot make any sense if you use the words that have been granted us to use. I mean, let's take the word drug. You know, we have a drug war, but as I drove into town, I noticed a drug store. It's that we, you know, with that compressed vocabulary, you can't make any sense at all of what's going on. Culture is a plot against the expansion of consciousness. And this plot prosecutes its goals through a limiting of language. The perturbation of brain chemistry is easily done. What is not so easily done is the assimilation of the consequences of this act. Ordinarily, we assume that consciousness is channeled between tremendously deep walls, that there is no way to force a confrontation with the other or the transcendent or the unconscious. We tend to assume that, you know, we're going to have to do double duty at the ashram for 3 decades before you're vouchsafed even a glimpse into these places. This is not true. It's not like there is a King's X where graybeards in white coats tend the sacred vestal fires of reality. There is no reality. There are only people who know this and people who don't know this and are therefore being manipulated by the people who do know it. On this issue of consciousness alteration, the well of language has been poisoned, where you cannot make any sense if you use the words that have been granted us to use. I mean, let's take the word drug. You know, we have a drug war, but as I drove into town, I noticed a drug store. It's that we, you know, with that compressed vocabulary, you can't make any sense at all of what's going on. Culture is a plot against the expansion of consciousness. And this plot prosecutes its goals through a limiting of language. The perturbation of brain chemistry is easily done. What is not so easily done is the assimilation of the consequences of this act. Ordinarily, we assume that consciousness is channeled between tremendously deep walls, that there is no way to force a confrontation with the other or the transcendent or the unconscious. We tend to assume that, you know, we're going to have to do double duty at the ashram for 3 decades before you're vouchsafed even a glimpse into these places. This is not true. It's not like there is a King's X where graybeards in white coats tend the sacred vestal fires of reality. There is no reality. There are only people who know this and people who don't know this and are therefore being manipulated by the people who do know it.
Welcome. This is Dark Times with Dark Match Steve. I'm Dark Match Steve, your twink for the evening, your little boy toy. I hope you have fun. Guys, tonight's coming out of left field a little bit. Look, I could not cover election bullshit for another night. Ow, and my fucking back hurts. Damn it. Oh. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to talk about Trump winning or fucking Kamala losing one more night in a row. I'll bring it up again later. Next week or something maybe, but I'm not going to do it all fucking week. Every show talking about Trump and Kamala. I'm just not going to do it. Hold on one second. Oh. I'm not doing it. I refuse. You guys want to talk about Trump? Go fucking jerk yourselves off somewhere else, okay? I voted for him, all right? I'm just saying, come on. At some point, you just gotta, let yourself have a thought outside of fucking politics. I know I'm crazy for suggesting that we talk about something besides the election. I know, I am actually batshit crazy. But that's what we're doing tonight. Let me get to the chat page. Oh, yeah, so tonight we're going over Terence McKenna. I'm letting the cat out of the bag tonight a little bit. I've talked about Terence on my other my podcast that used to be a pre-recorded deal on Spotify. It's still up there, I think. But yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, here we are. We're going to talk about Terence McKenna. I'm going to show you guys a Terence McKenna lecture. Why are we getting into this? Well, if you read the caption at all to this video, I don't know, where you're watching. It might not be up. I know it's not on Twitter. But yeah, Terence McKenna is one of my most influential people. He's not my people, but he's one of the most influential people in my life. And he's dead. He's been dead since 2001. But this guy is one of the... I could listen to this guy fucking talk all day. His voice is a little bit hypnotizing. But this will give you a small glimpse into how I end up thinking the way that I do about some things. Again, this isn't like... He's one of the most influential thinkers in my life, but it's, I have my own thoughts about shit, and I do disagree. I disagree with Terence on some stuff. I don't know if any of it's going to come up in the video we're watching tonight, but anyway, and you'll find this if you pay attention, you'll see some of the shit Terence is talking about. You'll notice that this is where Joe Rogan gets a lot of his philosophies about certain stuff. And this guy, Terence McKenna, if you're not familiar with him, he is, or was, basically like the Tim Leary of the 90s and maybe late 80s too. I'm not exactly sure when he started doing his lectures and everything. I don't remember exactly. But he's got various books out about psychedelics and different shit like that. This is the guy that got me into psychedelics, which I'm very thankful for. And it's fucking crazy, man. It's crazy how the way this man thinks, especially back in the 90s, he was saying stuff. This guy made some predictions about stuff that have come true, and it's just like offhanded comments he's made. One of them I can't remember. There's a few of them, but one of the predictions he made was that don't ask, don't tell in the military, gays would be allowed in the military before the federal government would legalize cannabis. I think that's what he said. Or I don't remember if he said psychedelics in general or cannabis. I think he was talking about cannabis when he said that, and he was right. Yeah, Terence McKenna is also famous for time wave zero. So this guy, if you guys remember back in 2012, people thought the world was going to end. Do you remember that? 2012, it was like, people thought the world was going to end in 2000 because of, fucking numbers in computers, people putting the dates in and the computer not being able to understand if it meant the year 2000 or 1900 because it was just two O's. There was some issue with that. And then the most recent apocalypse date was 2012, which was based on the Mayan calendar. Okay, but Terence McKenna, this is the crazy thing, is Terence McKenna made something called Time Wave Zero. It's a computer program based off of the I Ching. You guys might have to actually look some stuff up yourself if you want to keep up tonight. Maybe I'll look some of this up and show you what I'm talking about. But the I Ching is an ancient Chinese divination tool technique. There's like there's coins, and there's like words that go with it, like a book or what, I forget exactly what it is that it tells you what the coins mean and what you do with the I Ching. There's a fucking Tommy Chong talked about using it. Tommy Chong was on Joe Rogan's podcast. He talked about when he was in prison. Remember Tommy Chong got busted for the bong? And when he was in prison, he showed some of the other prisoners the I Ching. And there's the coins, and then there's like the book, the pages you read from. So what you do is you throw these coins, these I Ching coins, and then that gives you you throw a certain amount of them and in a certain sequence, and then you look up what the meaning of it is in the book. And you hear stories about people getting freaked out about how the I Ching seems to actually work. It's one of the weird, spooky, woo-woo, fucking, spiritual things that actually a lot of people say is somewhat reliable, even though some of the things in the book, the I Ching, that you match up with what you throw of the coins, a lot of people claim it's just vague enough to be able to interpret whatever the fuck you want out of it, but not quite, though. It's kind of crazy. Like if you we might pull up if we have time later tonight. This whole episode ain't going to be about the goddamn I Ching and Time Wave Zero. But if you look up Tommy Chong, when he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, he talked about prisoners getting freaked out when he'd bring out this I Ching shit. And anyway, but Terence McKenna used the I Ching and made a computer program out of it called Time Wave Zero. And Time Wave Zero supposedly mapped onto our timeline. It shows ebbs and flows. It's like there's a graph part of it. It shows the ebbs and flows of novelty, of change in the world. Okay. So like he used to love showing the I Ching, Time Wave Zero, and showing how the fall of Rome was on this, was mapped onto this thing. A bunch of significant events in history seem to be mapped onto this graph, where there's dips and peaks in this graph. It's like world events that happen through history. Then, crazy enough, the I Ching, or the time wave zero Terence came up with, ends on December 21st, 2012. So a lot of Terence McKenna fans were actually thinking some crazy shit was going to happen on December 21st, 2012. Just trying to get you all interested a little bit with this intro here. But anyway, not a lot of that is going to come up in this video tonight. I don't think so. He might mention it in this lecture. But this is a really good lecture to sort of start you off with. He doesn't get too out there with some stuff. But we'll get right into the shit. Let me get to the chat page. Holy shit, I got a lot of chatters up in here already. Fucking the Fat Pig. What's up, sir? Bob Cook's up in here. Iggy McGillicuddy is up in here, sir. Nancy Pelosi is blocked from my stream, but thank you. Fucking Sniz is up in here. Snizzook Sliz Air. Fucking Airplane Willie. What's up, guys? How's it going? Thank you guys for coming to hang. We're doing something a little bit different tonight, okay? I'm sorry. We're not just going to keep watching videos of liberals crying. That would be probably fun for a Friday, but we've been through it all week. I got so burnt out by that fucking election night. I stayed on 6 hours. I was up streaming until 2, and I didn't go to sleep till about 3. I'm fucking over politics. I fucking hate it. I'm done talking. Let's talk about something else. God damn it. Big E up in here. What's up, Big E? Let me keep scrolling down. Lovers. Facebook user. Grumpy says, hey, DMS. Why does it say Facebook user? Is this an anonymous? Is this Grumpy? Why is it chat coming through like that on Facebook? Rainy's up in here. What's up, Rainy? Rainy, the Oklahoma realtor out there slinging houses. All right, let me pull this up because it's already 8:20. I'd like to be through this by like 10:15 because I'm actually going out tonight. Hold on, I'll get you right to it, lovers. Before we start, who is there anyone in the chat that's actually familiar with Terence McKenna? Seriously, anybody? Did I miss anything on the big show? I don't know. I think I only caught like a little bit of it this morning, Biggie. I don't know. Tuttle was on there today. I think Gene Lasker was out. But yeah, I missed a lot of the main show. And I was so busy today I couldn't catch up. God damn, YouTube is actually like fucking ruthless with the goddamn ads. Let me skip. I ain't buying this bullshit. CVS? What am I going to get from CVS? You don't even sell cigarettes anymore. Fuck off. God damn it. Never heard of her. Terence McKenna, that's a man, but thank you. Thank you for participating, Big E. Gene had the poops. Oh, yeah, they said he had a bug or something. I did hear that part. Lummy did his goat report today. Big E, you said I quit listening, getting tired of getting treated like a child by some people. Huh. What, you're talking about in the Bubba chat? I wasn't prepared to get into any Bubba Army drama. But this has become a place where some people like to air grievances about that. I'm not talking shit. I'm whatever. Some people think I can sympathize with being angry at the Bubba show. I don't know why. Oh fuck. No drama. Well, that's good. No drama. Isn't Terrence that guy that thinks farts are funny? It's interesting that you say that because in one part of his, I forget now if it was a lecture or if it's one of his books, but Terence McKenna went with his brother and a few other people to an area of, I think, the Peruvian Amazon called La Chorrera. And he was talking about, they were going, him and his brother went to South America, to the Amazon, to look for a psychedelic that was they'd heard about, that's out in the fucking forest. I forget what it's called, Okuhe or so. There was some psychedelic they went to go find, and it was like something they had read and heard about, but it was not popular. And, you know, people go to South America and where the fuck ever now to do ayahuasca. Everybody fucking knows about that, but it's something different that they were looking for. They went all the way out there to find this drug, and ended up basically doing a bunch of psychedelic mushrooms. But he talked about, yeah, pull my finger. They talked about how the fucking native people around this one area, they found like this group of people in the woods that, you know, barely contacted other humans. And Terrence made a point to speak in the book or this lecture, whichever it was, talking about how one of the like highest forms of humor amongst these native people was farting, that they would crack up about farting. So there you have it. Thank you, Rainy. Practice is over. Gonna bounce. Evening BA always okay. You're bouncing from here? God damn. All right, we're going to get it started, ladies and gentlemen. This is Terence McKenna's Taxonomy of Illusion. This is a good lecture, okay? This is under 2 hours. You guys don't go listening to Terence McKenna lectures without me. If you want to listen to one, you send it to me and we'll listen on here together. Okay? Don't you go exploring Terence without, you can't handle it. I have to guide you through this because eventually you're gonna click on something and you're gonna be lost. Not with me here, okay? So let's get through this one. Taxonomy of Illusion. This lecture is basically about how we're in a simulation. Buckle up, guys. Get some popcorn. Maybe drop a hit of acid. Eat a couple shrooms. Take some edibles. Something. How rugged are those people living out in the jungle? They're pretty rugged. All right, we're getting into it, guys. Let's go. Pay attention. You might actually learn something. Ralph Abraham, this guy's he's still alive. He's a mathematician that used to hang out with Terence a lot, and they used to, like, you know, do acid and shit together, along with Rupert Sheldrake, who's another scientist that's still alive.
So in the 1960s, our
Look at this guy looking like he's in the Grateful Dead.
Terence was a student, like many of you, at UC Berkeley, and he left in the middle of things to go on a tour around the world for 7 years that ended in the deepest Amazon basin.
I was just telling you about the Amazon. He really went there and roughed it and did a bunch of psychedelics out in the fucking middle of the forest,
where he had an experience that has determined his life in the 20 years following, and which is the subject of his latest book, True Hallucinations. So now in this historic moment, after all this time, Terence will ascend the platform of the University of California for the first time.
What I thought I would talk about when I was approached to do this, the pressure was to say something new, which is a heart-sinking pressure to a warhorse of the lecture circuit. I started out thinking I would never repeat myself and sometimes wonder if I'll ever have a new idea again. But what I wanted to talk about this evening was illusions. And I called the lecture The Taxonomy of Illusion, because I think it's interesting to attempt to classify and relate the various kinds of illusions that stand between us and that presupposed naked, radiant truth. that has more or less driven the engines of Western philosophy since Plato.
I'm telling you guys, this gets weird. I'm taking you guys down a rabbit hole with me. Don't be scared, okay? Take my hand, pay attention. We're going to be okay. It's all right. We are living in a simulation. Just don't worry about it. Okay? You just got to, it's a ride. It's a trip. Just come along with me. And Terence, he's guiding us.
Of course, the great victory of modernity is to disabuse ourselves of such naive notions, but they die hard, I think. Ralph mentioned my latest book, and I don't intend to talk about the book particularly, but in the book I quote the only piece of poetry in the whole thing, not written by me. I now see that I seem to have lost it. Oh no, here it comes up. But it relates to this on many, many levels, this question of illusion and the relationship of the self to the real and where the world falls in that equation and the limits of knowledge and all that other good psychedelic stuff that needs to be considered.
Bob Cook, yes, sir. Maybe I need to smoke more. Yeah, go ahead, guys. Smoke them if you got them. This ain't a joke tonight. We're getting into this, okay? You're going to question reality. That's what we're doing for tonight. I don't give a fuck about who won the election anymore. We're talking about Terence tonight. Ram Dass, yeah, I love Ram Dass. He is he's friends with Terence. There's a video or two where Terence and Ram Dass actually do like a lecture together, or they have a conversation. And it's really funny. I was remembering a portion from this conversation, and Ram Dass made a prediction to Terence McKenna. And I was, not that it's related to this, but Ram Dass or anything going on. Ram Dass talked about in this lecture, this is the part I was thinking about, and it's eerie, but Ram Dass said something about there will be a time in the future, the way there's so many humans, there's so many people. Damn, something happened with my fucking, something's up with my Facebook because it's not telling me who the users are. Guys, remember my shit got kicked off last night. That video's blocked on YouTube, and I got kicked off on Facebook, and it's because of fucking Jimmy Kimmel's stupid crying bitch ass. I play 45 seconds of Jimmy Kimmel crying, and YouTube wants to fucking shove a fork up my ass. Jimmy Kimmel, grow balls, you fucking pussy. God damn it. Now my shit's fucked up. Fucking pussy. Sorry. Ram Dass in this lecture was talking about with Terence, saying that there's so many people, there's so many humans existing on the planet. There's a lot of people and certain cities that people live in and stuff where people are like sick of looking at each other. They're sick of seeing each other. And he made this prediction about sometime in the near future, you'll be walking alone like after the fucking apocalypse or something, and you'll see a light way, way off in the distance, the light of a fucking campfire or something, and you'll breathe a sigh of relief knowing that there's another human somewhere that you can interact with or something. He made some prediction like this. It was really fucking eerie. But yeah, fucking Ram Dass, Adam Wiley. Yeah, he's an interesting guy too. Mark the Frog, though. Thank you, bro. Thank you for checking out the stream. We're getting into Terence McKenna stuff tonight. Come on, guys. Let's do it.
The quote is from Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov. And if you don't know this book, you should. It is without doubt one of the funniest books in the English language. And it takes the form of a very long poem and then the commentary upon this poem. The poem is written by a character that Nabokov creates named John Shade. And the part that I want to call to your attention this evening runs like this. That rare phenomenon, the iridule, when beautiful and strange, in a bright sky above a mountain range, one opal cloudlet in an oval form reflects the rainbow of a thunderstorm which in a distant valley has been staged, for we are most artistically caged. Now, this is a very strange piece of poetry. This is not like even Wallace Stevens at his most obscure. In the first place, this word, the iridule, you won't find this word in any dictionary. And yet I sensed that this is obviously the word for this phenomenon. I know what he's talking about. I have seen this opal cloudlet in an oval form, which reflects the rainbow of a thunderstorm in a distant place. We're in the realm of mirage and nature as mirage and nature as mirrored labyrinth.
Guy definitely voted for Kamala Harris. So you know what's really funny, Sniz, is Terence McKenna's brother is still alive. His name is Dennis McKenna. And I don't know if I still follow him on Twitter. Maybe I got blocked or something because I have not seen anything from him in forever. And I was responding to some shit. Dennis McKenna is definitely anti-Trump. The surviving brother of Terence McKenna is anti-Trump. But there's lectures where Terence McKenna mentions Donald Trump. It's actually really funny. It's really fucking weird. And I think I mentioned this before that, look, 2016 was a crazy time. I voted for Trump in 2016. And after I voted for Trump, I literally stayed away from psychedelics for a little bit longer than I normally would. And part of it was that I was kind of worried that I fucked up really bad. like I accidentally just I fell into the wrong crowd politically or something, and I ended up putting a vote behind something and condoning something that I really shouldn't have. I was worried about that a little bit, and I went and I went out into the woods like I normally do to consult with the thing, and I used mushrooms, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, dealing with the choice that I made. In fact, it was like the opposite. I felt like I had made the right decision. I'm just being, yeah, it's LOL. No, I'm being real, Adam. I was actually worried. You guys don't know, back in 2016, so I graduated in 2008. In 2008 is when I discovered LSD, when I was in high school. And no wars, yeah. No, accidentally voted for the best economy. Dude, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. When I actually did the shrooms out in the woods, I was like, I don't want to give away too much. I'm letting the cat out of the bag so hard tonight with this video. Guys, I know no one, I have the general sense that people are in the chat, you're not quite there with understanding the significance of what I'm getting into. And it's hard to get serious on here. I know we fuck around too much. But this guy is a big deal. This guy really is a big deal. He was handed the torch from Timothy Leary. Just go play it. Yeah, we'll play it. Okay. But anyway, what I'm getting at, you mentioned Trump. No, I was fucking worried about the choice that I made. And when I went out and did shrooms in the woods, which I was scared to do after voting for Trump, it was pretty much the opposite feeling, where it was like I made a fine choice and to not worry about it, basically. But Terence mentions Donald Trump, and one of these, I know at least one of the parts he gets mentioned, he says something about one of the richest guys on the planet being Donald Trump. He mentions his net worth, and then he's like, even with Donald Trump, one of the richest men in America, maybe he said, or something, you can only buy like one jet, one of the state-of-the-art military jets. You could only afford one with Donald Trump's net worth or something. He mentioned Trump about, talking like that. It wasn't something negative or, extremely positive. It was almost sort of a neutral type of thing. Of course, Trump wasn't running for president or anything, but he was a flashy businessman back then. And you'd expect from these hippie types for them to be like, oh, that's fucking, that's corporate Trump. He's a piece of shit. He's just trying to make money. Da, 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 da. And it was not the vibe from Terence at all. So me and my friends that know about Terence have talked about this before, whether Terence would have voted for Trump or not. And that's a fence sitter. It could go either way, man. Back for 2016, for sure, it could go either way. Especially, but Terence would at least have been smart enough to notice how the gay people were freaking out about Trump when Trump had never said anything negative about gays, and Hillary Clinton used to speak out against gay marriage. And this guy was very pro, LGBTQ. So he would have sniffed that out in a minute. I don't know why his brother didn't, Dennis McKenna.
And then the final point, and I'll go through all this in the course of talking to you, but the final line about being artistically caged, this is, I think, where the psychedelics come in, because psychedelics allow one to pierce beyond the veil of cultural illusion, beyond the linguistic momentum of what has been handed on. The faith of Tantra and magic and psychedelics is that the apparent intransigent appearance of the world can somehow be overcome by an act of magic. I used to collect Tibetan thangkas, and the texts which go with some of these thangkas, I remember one in particular, which coming out of the Tibetan, the translation was, all things being reversed, the great Hla, the great God, appears instantly. You see, the precondition for magic is the reversal of causality somehow. And as moderns, we have grown to give great credence, I think, to the idea that the world is largely a linguistic structure, largely created through the participation of the observer. But we have not been able to take that perception and turn it into a technology. Instead, we are still driven by the blind momentum of atomic structure. Who was it who said the atoms blindly run? And then I think it was Whitehead who said, yes, but within the body they blindly run according to the body's plan. You see, what I think we're dealing with are patterns and then the indeterminate dimensions between patterns. And it's in those indeterminate places, within the interstices of reality, that the observer is able to establish him or herself and then model back the world. The reason I wanted to talk about a taxonomy of illusion was because I thought it was important to relate the various styles of hyperseeing, non-seeing, and misseeing together, because I think that the heuristic consequences of doing that are to realize just how shifting the sands are upon which the ontological edifice of Western thinking rests. I mean, that's always the point, you see, to deconstruct Western civilization, because Western civilization, the toxic consequences are now clear for everyone to see. So the first category or grand family of illusions, which we would put into our taxonomic key, would be social illusions. And when later we can argue this, but at this point in the discussion, illusion is / delusion. So the great social illusions, delusions, are sexism, racism, xenophobia, egoism, classism. The world is riddled and ruled by these social illusions, and no one is free of them. And so they constitute one broad category. I might just mention as an aside, a book which was very influential on me, and I never heard anybody else ever mention it, was a book by Rockcliffe called Illusions and Delusions of the Supernatural and the Occult. This was a 19th century book which I, as a kid, got in a Dover reprint. And it was in a wonderful era where the study of anomalies was still young. And so this book had everything poured in together, from Mesmer's ectoplasm to people who had tumors that they carried around in wheelbarrows, to birds that did advanced arithmetic, so forth and so on. And it was a very, very much from the point of view of Victorian rationalism. And it also mentioned psychedelics. It was what it really was a category of edges, and or a catalog of edges, I'm sorry. And it's only then in the subsequent 35 years that that Wunderkamera approach to illusion, and I assume you all know what I mean by that. I'm referring to the era before the rise of Linnaean natural science, when naturalists would simply fill cabinets with anomalous, fascinating, and strange objects. So the tarantulas might be mixed in with the chambered nautiluses, which might be stirred into the Zuni fetishes, which might be next to the something else. Then later, these Wunderkameras, these curiosity cabinets, as you would call them in English, gave way to Linnaean taxonomy. In the same way, over the past 100 years, I think the study of illusion and anomaly has attempted to rationalize itself. Spatial illusions are an entirely different family of illusory phenomena, and we all have in.
So if okay, time to eat some mushrooms. Makes perfect sense. Yeah. Yeah. So what he's basically doing here in this lecture, and the Q&A, there's a Q&A too. So stick with it. You know, some people are going to question him on some stuff, and you know, it stays relatively interesting the whole time. But he's basically going through and he's laying out basically just different forms of illusion that we deal with, you know, just living in the reality that we're in. And like he said, that you really wait, did he say it in this? I watched some other clips. Now I'm forgetting what he said in this one, and I'm smoking and I don't fucking remember. But you know, it's like psychedelics really do break away the idea that there's like a like strong concrete bedrock of reality or something. You know, we just the world is sort of like this fucking weird thing that our consciousness is fucking interacting with and stuff, you know. And there's really I mean, if you just think about it, we are evolved from monkeys, or we are monkeys basically. And you know what, why should a monkey, if you fucking go see a monkey at the zoo, what would make you think that that monkey could actually understand and map reality, right? So the monkey, your fucking dog, your cat, everything, every living organism that has consciousness is just like it has a completely different interaction with reality. And reality, if there even is like an objective reality, and there's no reason to think that they actually have access to the truth, or they're perceiving the truth. Every fucking conscious animal walking around is just what it's perceiving and mapping out in its brain isn't reality. It's just the best interpretation of the stuff around it to enable it to breed and continue its line of genetics into the future. Its genes, you know, being successfully propagated into the future. That's what everything that you, every fucking living thing around you is basically. That's like what it's doing, and there's no reason to think that interpreting the world around you as it is, okay, as it truly is, there's no reason to think that that is the best way to propagate your genetics into the future. It may, and I think there is data to support this. There may be good reasons that your brain is going to lie to you about reality, because it's going to allow you to just function better. You know, if you get right out of bed and you can't even put the first step on the floor because you're just overthinking everything, there's no benefit to being such a fucking genius that you can't even get out of bed, and there's probably, that's like a form of anxiety probably that a lot of people have, is that you just can't get past that. You're confounded by some fucking thing. You probably are having just a really profound thought that you can't fucking deal with, and it gives you anxiety or whatever the fuck. But that's goes along with the theme here, is that he's just laying out different illusions with us interacting with reality and whatnot, because for sure there are. All right, I'll let him do more talking. I'm too stoned. I'm really I was losing track of where I was going there for a second, but I think I got it out. You get what I'm saying? Like the best organisms that evolve and fucking continue into the future aren't necessarily the organisms that are perceiving reality as it is. There are benefits to your brain just throwing a few white lies at you here and there just so you can get through the day.
Encountered at some level, I imagine, the specially constructed environments that occur in behavioral psychology labs that trick you into thinking that the person in the foreground is smaller than the person in the background, and so forth and so on. These kinds of illusions and are probably fairly trivial, except that they address perception. And when we get to psychedelics as a source of illusion, this is more important. Another of the great family of illusions are, in thinking about them, I called them ontological illusions, illusions of states of being, which may or may not, in fact, be reflected in reality. UFOs, Bigfoot, crop circles, the entire panoply of poltergeist phenomena, and this sort of thing, ontological illusions. And these are very interesting. I mean, one could give time to this alone, because there are persistent ontological illusions in the human sensorium, such as angels, elves, demons, jinns, afrits, nixies, and sprites, that crowd. And there,
you can tell he smoked before this. This motherfucker's got cotton mouth. He can't keep away from that water.
There are ontological illusions that seem somehow tied to the evolving modalities of the group mind. UFOs are an obvious example. I mean, aside from the fact that people have occasionally seen strange things in the sky, the UFO archetype really emerges in the late 40s with the Rainier lights, and then a whole set of taxonomic features of this particular brand of illusion coalesce. The silvery discs, the alien denizens with the cat eyes and the rubbery flesh, those same guys who give you unscheduled proctological examinations in the middle of the night. But notice that that particular taxonomic feature has been added recently through the assiduously careful scientific research of Strieber and company. So these things are a cattle mutilation is an interesting one, very confined in time and space.
Hold on, wait. We've got a scam call, and this is a late one, so you know these guys are assholes. Hold on a second. Hello? Hello? Okay, back to the video. Sorry, guys. So if there's anyone new here, I bet you're just like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? This guy is watching Terence McKenna while he's really baked and explaining how reality is an illusion, basically, and then he gets scam calls and takes scam calls. He thinks he's fucking Kit Boga and Tim Leary. Jesus Christ, what kind of fucking show am I running here? This is insane. Even I'm just I don't know what I've become. What the fuck is going on?
The crop circle thing, similarly. It's not that there aren't crop circles, but that what we have is essentially a pattern in an English wheat field, but then radiating out from that are the illusions of those who cast their gaze upon it.
Fucking yellow ones. Thank you for checking out the stream. Please hit the sub. Oh fuck. I'm glad someone's entertained by that. Yeah, please hit the subscribe. I'm trying to grow my channel back. I got deleted a couple years ago. Fucking fighting algorithms over here. It's fucking hell. Thanks for hanging though.
Those who proclaim it, telluric communication or particle beam research carried on by the Air Force, or in one version it was supposed that a particular crop circle had been decoded, found to be a lost Sumerian language, which when decoded said basically, don't stop here. It was essentially a no parking zone for time machines. They were saying, this entire century just to maintain speed.
Yeah, fucking Thomas Owens, thanks for checking out the stream. Some of his stuff that hit me like a laser was his talks on memes and how we could fight wars with memes. Dude, that is a very good point. Terence McKenna, as far as I know, Terence McKenna is the first person that's recorded talking about what a meme is. And god damn it. I wish I could find that. I know I could if I really took. I don't have time for this, but I could find that part where he describes what a meme is, but it's in the fucking 90s, dude. No one was fucking talking about memes back in the no one knew what the fuck that is. People that use the term meme these days, they are referring to internet meme, like a picture with a little caption. That's just how they think of memes. But the way Terence described it is what we're doing with the memes. The way he defined it back when I remember saying, it's been a while, but he describes or defines a meme as basically to an idea, it's the same thing as a gene is to an organism. So like a gene for an organism is like the smallest broken down fucking expression of an organism or something like that. That's what a meme is the most precise broken down version of an idea. And that's basically like that's how you can find a good meme on the internet, is something that it gets right to the point. And we like funny ones these days too, but something that gets right to the point with a short amount of words that just describes something so perfectly that it's like everyone's been thinking the same thing, but this meme puts it perfectly. That's like, language compromise of symbols. It's when he talks about Egyptian is a mimetic language. Huh. All I remember, you might be right about that. That might be where I'm thinking, I absolutely love memes. Why use them as weapons? Well, they're tools, at least. You decide whether it's a weapon or not. If you have to put up a fight, sometimes it might be good to throw a meme up there. No, but yeah, so that might be right about the Egyptian memetics language stuff. I don't remember the lecture or the context before he started how he got into it, but he gave some definition like that. Like it's the smallest expression of an idea, a meme. Same as a gene analogy for a fucking organism.
And, do not stop.
No, yeah, it's a wonderful way to pass information. But it's funny. It's so funny. I feel like his definition was just so perfect because that's like when I heard him say that, and considering it's in the 90s, that blows your fucking mind. But beyond that, that is just like such a perfect. It makes so much sense. Like that perfectly describes a good meme. You can get, if you have a good meme, even an internet meme, or the way he's describing it more literally of just like a meme as an idea, you can get a whole fucking, you can just get a shitload of information across with just doing a few words and a little fucking picture or whatever. It's like you can the most what's the term I'm looking for? Concise or fucking boiled down fucking God damn it, I'm too baked. But anyway, you can get a shitload of information across with like the smallest amount of words and most concise amount of words. That's a good meme. That's the same with a gene, Crazy. This guy was so fucking smart for his time. It's nuts. And on top of that, a fucking amazing speaker. Direct messaging, yeah. Yeah, so that's Thomas Owens. I opened the show talking about that, the stuff he did with the I Ching and stuff. That shit's pretty crazy. Tommy Chong talks about using the I Ching, I think when he was in prison. Well, I talked about that earlier, starting the show off. But yeah, and he also, I mentioned you say prophet. He did also predict that they would let gays into the military before the federal government legalized cannabis. He was right about that too.
Psychedelic illusions. Again, this is a related category, but different from these ontological illusions. By illusion, I mean that these are confrontations with phenomena, an apparently subjective ground and an assumed rational observer, where then there is a more than ordinary amount of ambiguity. I mean, most of reality is illusory. It's just that we do each other the courtesy of not pointing this out. Actually, you trace a very thin data path through the world, and most of what we assume without question, we have very little evidence for. I mean, something as simple as, like that Mount Everest is the highest mountain in the world. Well, first of all, very few people have ever seen it. I saw it, and because I saw it from a distance of about 500 miles, it looked quite small, and my own testimony as to whether it was the highest mountain in the world would be fairly unreliable. And besides, what does that mean anyhow, and how the hell do you figure it out? I mean, here we have one mountain in the Himalayas and another in Bolivia, and you're telling me you know which is the higher mountain? It must rest on a whole bunch of weird and fishy assumptions resting on even shakier data. So, and that's just a question of the highest mountain in the world. Give or, leave alone the state of your lover's heart, or your banker's for that matter.
He's so good. God damn you, Terence. Why'd you have to leave us? Prophet, yeah. Was that the wrong prophet? Yeah. No. I think that's what he meant. No, yeah, that's true. Illusions. This is a decent this is a good Terence lecture. It's not too long, and the Q&A, I don't remember, it's been a long time since I watched this. But I've watched this lecture. I don't, a lot of the time I'll listen to Terrence stuff while I was tripping or smoking and fucking doing laundry and chores and bullshit. I'll just watch and like mostly listening, watch here and there. I've watched and listened to this like over 10 times. I mean, this is like, I fucking love this lecture. But yeah, I think the Q&A gets interesting. It's been a few years since I've seen this, but yeah, there's a good portion of Q&A. It's gets interesting.
What's important about the psychedelic family of illusions is that they propel the entire issue of illusion to center stage, because they demonstrate that the assumed bedrock of quote-unquote ordinary perception is in fact no bedrock at all. It's simply a very soft dwell point somewhere in the mysteries of metabolism. And the consciousness, whatever its relationship to the brain, is spectacularly affected by the perturbation of the physical brain by endogenously introduced pseudo-neurotransmitters of some sort. And to my mind, this is very interesting. Alexander Shulgin has secured in his work that you can take a molecule that is completely inactive, and by moving one atom to a different place on the ring, you can change this into an active compound. Now,
so, and for those scoring at home, remember, anyone new around here, please do hit the subscribe. I cover all kinds of shit on my stream. I've been doing some politics bullshit recently with the fucking US election. I'm over it tonight. We're done talking about the goddamn election, okay? I don't, let's all try to get along after that, okay? But fucking, I cover all kinds of shit on here. During the Diddy, when I was covering the Diddy story, guys, remember when we read through the indictment on my stream and it mentioned all those drugs. We got to the paragraph where it mentioned what drugs he was dosing people with. And one of the drugs that P. Diddy, and it didn't list it as, if it listed the full chemical name, and we looked it up, and it was 2CE or 2CB, one of the two. And the fucking, the guy that made 2CE and 2CB is the gentleman that Terence is talking about right now, Alexander Shulgin. But, a lot of people refer to him as Sasha Shulgin. He's done, he has a DEA license. He's worked at fucking chemical, like Dow. I think he worked for Dow Chemical. And I think he had some role in MDMA. I don't think he created it, but he discovered that it was an active compound. So someone else, if I'm remembering this correctly, Sasha discovered that the compound MDMA, it was made by someone else, but they thought it was an active, but he found out or something that it was an active compound or something, like perfected it. I don't fucking know, something like that. But that's the guy he's talking about here. Fucking P. Diddy was buying 2CE and 2CB fucking probably off the internet way back in the day. Like, I don't know if those are even controlled now, but you used to just be able to buy a pound of fucking 2CE through the internet from some fucking medical supply company, and they would send you this shit in the mail, and it was a psychedelic that would blow your fucking mind, okay? Strong, like real psychedelic. And they just send you that shit in the mail like it was nothing. So yeah, that's who he's referring to. The same guy that made the 2CE shit that fucking P. Diddy was dosing people at with his fucking white parties. P. Diddy was into some crazy shit. I'm so glad we looked that up, because that changed my perspective. And on top of, P. Diddy was sort of like skirting around the law by using these fucking like weird, partially controlled, like gray area drugs. Like one of them was an over-the-counter fucking what was anesthetic for horses or something like that, right? That was one of the drugs. He was sort of like using these different drugs that were kind of legal, but not legal if you fucking without consent dose someone, you know, type of thing. I don't know. It was interesting, but yeah, Alexander Shulgin.
Seems to me you could hardly have a neater demonstration of the quantum mechanical foundation of consciousness, because you've moved one atom and you've moved the mountains of mind 500 miles from where they were resting when last you looked. It's quite spectacular. And it argues then that mind, which strangely enough, the materialists always claimed this, they just put different emphasis on the words. Mind is a kind of iridescence upon metabolism. For the materialists, that was a dismissal, because to them what iridescence meant was a tertiary phenomenon not inimical to the structure of matter.
Dude, that is sorry, I keep stopping and I just saw your comment, Danny's what's her name, Story? Fucking it's so funny. People are bringing up in here stuff that we've talked about already in here. There's some you know, we're on the same page in here. It's really funny. But yeah, someone else brought up Ram Dass, and I talked about Terence talking to Ram Dass in this stream earlier. That is really funny. The fucking synchronicity. Yeah, MK Ultra Manson type of shit. P Diddy, right? You're referring to? Yeah. No, that was some weird fucking yeah, MK Ultra fucking yeah.
But necessarily perceived only through the intercession of an observer. See, that's what iridescence is. It's somehow a more fragile part of nature than the rocks, the trees, and the waters, because it's a play between light and mind. Again, a kind of illusion, a mirage. Now, in a very different category of illusion, and this is one worth considering because it's the one we tend not to place in this category, and that is the illusion of materialism. This has broken down completely. The idea that the material world was real sustained the investigation of nature from Parmenides to the early years of the 20th century. Virtually the entire history of human engagement in the abstract intellectual modeling of matter was assumed to be pretty much as presented in perception: solid, enduring, having simple location, meaning, you know, it stays where you put it, and when you look there again, it's there. That sort of thing. Now, one of the best kept dirty secrets of Western civilization is that the core science, which is physics, the science which was always the envy of all the other sciences for its mathematical formalism and its incredible predictive ability, because it's not unusual in physics to predict from theory an experimental result to the third or fourth decimal. This is spectacular congruence between theory and experiment. You don't get that in the social sciences, or even in physical, need I mention, even in physical chemistry. However, the investigation of matter has now been pushed to such extremes that matter has shed its easily recognized and familiar face, and it has become something much slipperier, much more dependent on the presence of the observer, much less easily located in space and time, something much more of the nature of thought than of the familiar conception of matter. This word has not reached even as far as biology yet. The biologists are still laboring under the notion of the reality of physical material. If any of you read this book that was published last year with much to do called
So I'll back it up a second so we don't lose context here for this, but here I think he's hinting at, I wish he would cite specific experiments and stuff like that, or equations or something. I mean, Ralph Abraham is there. I'm sure, you know, that's his numbers guy. So like, I'm sure they're having these fucking conversations about experiments and fucking equations and shit. I wish he would cite one, but you know what he's getting at with the physics department, he's saying how, you know, physics is such a it's such a strong practice and rigorous practice to do fucking physics, the equations and everything. It's like he's saying with the other sciences, and you can do different kinds of experiments and make predictions about different shit. In physics, it's like you have the bare numbers. You fucking you say, I'm gonna fucking hold this bowling ball in front of my face on a string, and I did the fucking equations to figure out or whatever that, you know, it's like it's going to lose momentum so it won't hit you in the face again. That's repeatable no matter where the fuck you are on the planet, no matter who you are. It's like, it's physics. It's like if you have the data, it works. It is like, you know, it's not, there's no argument or like fudging anything. If you have the numbers, you have the data, and you do the experiment, it's like it's reliable. Okay, but when you get down to fucking quantum physics and some of the equations and experiments and shit that they're doing where atoms have superposition and fucking atoms are fucking empty space anyway, and just like all these different things. I'm not sure if he's referring to the double slit experiment, which I know is like a groundbreaking thing in some of you know, communities of people interested in different ideas online and shit, you know, psychedelic type of groups of people. You always hear that double slit experiment referred to. I know there's controversy about the interpretation of what as is actually happening in that experiment. But you think Terence reincarnated as Destiny? No. But yeah, he's saying, so the physicists who have been revered for how well the physics works, the numbers and the equations, the experiments, it works, okay? But when you ask them, okay, what, you have all these equations and you can prove what's going to happen in reality and stuff because you have the data and whatever. So when you dig down and look at that closer, what can you tell us? And then they go, oh yeah, well, so matter isn't what it looks like. It's mostly empty space, and there's funny things happening with the double slit experiment. Fucking photons and atoms acting differently, whether or not you're observing them and shit like that. Atoms having superposition and separating fucking atoms across the goddamn universe, and one will interact with the other one that's fucking, you know, hundreds of thousands of light years away and shit like, and it's just all like, it's bonkers. The fucking, and you think about the Neil deGrasse Tyson spoke to that, the fucking black physicist guy on stage who said that there's some found in string theory, which, okay, the quantum physics leads to string theory. You keep going down deeper and deeper, and there's equations within string theory that are error correcting code for a search engine. It's the exact same code for a search engine, and that's like built into the foundation of our reality when they are, you know, doing these equations with string theory. So, you know, it's shit like that you're just like, okay, the physics people are supposed to keep you grounded. Like, there's nothing magical. The data is what it is. The world can be broken down into numbers, and we can predict what's going to happen in the world based on those numbers. And you look deeper at those numbers, and then it tells us that reality is like not even there or something. You know, that's what he's getting at here, I believe. What are we doing here, and how can we relate Terence McKenna to Baba Kalindi? What Baba Kalindi, is that the guy he mentions? I'm not that familiar with that name. Kalindi, Lyi. I'd have to look that up. It's getting late. Let's get back into this, guys. I like Terence a lot. I pondered on a lot of this bullshit, so I like to spout off. Let's keep moving.
Consciousness explained. Actually, it should have been called
Fucking guys on Facebook, do get up in the chat. Put your name in the fucking chat. Something is going up. Something's going on with StreamYard that I can't see who the profile is commenting. I can see your chat, but I can't see the name. It says Facebook users. It has something to do with the fact that I got kicked off last night. It has to be related.
Consciousness Explained Away.
Hold on. We'll get back a little bit to get back in context here.
Even in physical chemistry. However, the investigation of matter has now been pushed to such extremes that matter has shed its easily recognized and familiar face and has become something much slipperier, much more dependent on the presence of the observer, much less easily located in space and time, something much more of the nature of thought than of the familiar conception of matter. This word has not reached even as far as biology yet. The biologists are still laboring under the notion of the reality of physical material. If any of you read this book that was published last year with much to do called Consciousness Explained, actually, it should have been called Consciousness Explained Away. Here was an effort to...
That's a book by Dan Dennett, I believe, who is actually, he's a smart dude, and I think he's in some video talking to like Christopher Hitchens and what's his goddamn name? The guy that looks like Ben Stiller. Fuck, is it Sam something? What the fuck is his name? And Richard Dawkins. He's a smart dude, but yeah, Terence doesn't like that book.
Drag out all the old material paradigms and explain away consciousness.
Sam Harris. God, I'm a fucking idiot. Sam Harris. That's what I was talking about.
The problem is matter itself has taken on the qualities of mind. And as this realization relativizes the life sciences, I think there is going to be a new interest in the potential for psychedelics to elucidate mental functioning, because what will become respectable, you see, is talk of the observer. This is what has invaded physics, the most rarefied and formal of all the sciences, had, in order to make sense of its enterprise, allow the observer a kind of primacy with the thing observed. As this seeps into the life sciences and psychology, hopefully the phobia of actually involving yourself in your field of study that informs all these reductionist, ratomorphic types in the schools of psychology will be overturned. Well, having flayed that dead horse sufficiently, another category of illusion that needs to be addressed, I think, is, how would one call it?
Oh, Johnny Z. What's up, bro? Yeah, Tess. No, I'm getting the fucking, the chats are coming through. The fucking, see, it says Facebook user above your chat. I don't know what's going on. I got hit last night for playing fucking Jimmy Kimmel's segment. God damn it. I'll write that name down. Hold on a second. Let me put that, or I'll look it up on another tab. Hold on. I will write it down. Hold on. Baba Kalindi. Are you trying to get me to join a cult? I'm available. The funny thing, and I'm not being a dick or anything, but the funny thing is Terence, I don't know. He, not that anyone named Baba something, but I remember in some lecture, Terence was talking about how, like about telling people to do psychedelics, and that something about making fun of following some like weird Indian mystic or something named Baba D or some shit like that. So that anytime I hear like some philosopher like Indian, so what is this? I'm assuming it's Indian guy, right? I'm schizophrenic, Adam Lewis. Okay. Yeah, me too. None of this that we're doing here, none of this is real. This is just in our head. So just chill out and try to enjoy it. That's old. What? This lecture? That's yeah, it is. My hat says nope. It says DEA. He's African and talks about entheogens. I didn't see. I didn't see your chat before. Thank you. Thank you for hanging. Um, yeah, I vaguely remember that talk. I haven't listened to a lot of Terrence recently. So fucking busy watching other bullshit. But yeah, this is. I'm glad we're going over this lecture again. This is a good one. You'll love him like Terrence. Yeah, I'll look him up. I wrote the name down. I'll check it out. I don't have time to bring up some of his stuff tonight because I do have plans. I'm waiting on my friend to get out of a meeting, and then I'm supposed to go meet up with him. But I've got, I think, at least like another hour or something like that, maybe like 45 minutes. So yeah, let's try to get through. What whatever shrooms he grew got him the decarcs. What, the ones that Terrence grew? Hot tits. What's up, fat pig? All right, let's get back to this.
Well, basically, a philosophical illusion or philosophical / religious illusion. This is the idea that by a direct appeal to intuition, we can somehow gain a foothold on truth. I think this is as specious as the notion that we can gain a foothold on truth through reason or experiment. This foothold on truth idea may have to be given up. I'm sure some of you have heard me recall the situation where Wittgenstein was raving about something, and one of his students said, "But is it the truth?" And he said, "Well, it's true enough." And this is really means a great divide has been crossed when you can say that, because it means you understand now that you are no longer a fairy in a Platonic super world, but that you are actually a monkey with a brain full of mush trying to sort out, what's right in front of you. True enough is what we should probably rest with.
He is so fucking good. He's so fucking smart. Me too. Thank you guys. I'm seeing a lot of new names in here. I do all kinds of shit on my page, on my channel. I'd appreciate the subscription. I mean, my stream is fucking weird. I've been covering politics bullshit for the last, whatever week, and I'm over talking about election bullshit, and I cover all kinds of shit, news bullshit. I stream 5 nights a week, and I do a live cold plunge every Sunday. But yeah, please, I would appreciate the subscriptions. Fucking my page got deleted a couple years ago. I'm still built. I think I'm ahead of what the subs I had back then. I see a few people did subscribe. I got notifications. I really appreciate the support because it's a bitch fighting these algorithms. Somehow I'm ended up in some people's suggestions. So yeah, thank you guys for hanging with us. Appreciate it.
And illusions abound. For instance, I was speaking of these religious ontologies. I was talking to someone recently who amazed me, because I've always thought of them as a person of great intelligence, but who would never be reclaimed from the arms of Mother Church. And we had dinner last week, And he said, I realized it finally comes down to, do you believe the universe is being run by the ghost of a Galilean politician? And he said, put that way, I realized that it wasn't. Other religious myths are less easily undone, I think. Monotheism has an appealing philosophical neatness, but it leads apparently to clitorectomy. So, you want to watch that. This search for philosophical neatness may make for strange bedfellows. And of course, Buddhism, I love the illusion of Buddhism. It's the illusion that illusion can be transcended. And again, not really doing genuflection to the animal nature. It's amazing to me. I mean, if you were to meet a termite who stated that his or her goal in life was the perfect modeling of the cosmos, you would think it was quite a comic undertaking.
Fucking the Jesus quote. Goddamn, bro. Yes. No, that one right there is one I've never forgot. That's one I've never forgot. Funny Face, what's up, bro? Thanks for coming back to the stream. How's it going? We're getting into some weirder shit tonight, Funny Face. I'm over talking politics bullshit. We're watching some Terence McKenna to bring us back down to, or sorry, to take us off of Earth. I was gonna say bring us back down to Earth, but that's not where I want to be. I'm sick of talking politics and election stuff. I just want to get my head back up into the clouds, and we're watching Terence to help us do that. Big E's back. What's up, bro? You missed the Jesus part? Where was it? I bet I can find it. Hold on. Where was it? He basically said,
Wittgenstein was raving about something, and one of his students said, but is it the truth? Is what we should probably rest with. And, illusions abound. One, for instance, I was speaking of these religious ontologies. I was talking to someone recently who amazed me because I've always thought of them as a person of great intelligence, but who would never be reclaimed from the arms of Mother Church. And we had dinner last week, and he said, I realized it finally comes down to, do you believe the universe is being run by the ghost of a Galilean politician? And he said, put that way, I realized that it wasn't. Other religious myths are less easily undone, I think. Monotheism has an appealing philosophical neatness, but it leads apparently to clitorectomy. So, you want to watch that. This search for philosophical neatness may make for strange bedfellows. And of course, Buddhism, I love the illusion of Buddhism. It's the illusion that illusion can be transcended. And again, not really doing genuflection to the animal nature. It's amazing to me. I mean, if you were to meet a termite who stated that his or her goal in life was the perfect modeling of the cosmos, you would think it was quite a comic undertaking. And yet, how different are we that we should presume to more than a shadow of the truth? Well, then, finally, or I don't know finally, but completing my laundry list here, linguistic truth, or the truth of language and the illusions that language weaves. Because someone quite intelligent said language was invented so that people could lie. In other words, it gives you that fudge factor of obfuscation where someone says, you know, why did you do that? Well, the best approach is, I didn't do that. You know, you thought I did that. What you thought you saw, you didn't see. In other words, I suppose that lawyers are probably the people who have done the finest work with language, and behind them, politicians. And the true potential for language to elevate and to unite the community was early on betrayed into the production of illusory and ideological goods, which could then be marketed among the people and to spread confusion.
What are you talking about? Orisa Indias, is that a strain of mushrooms? Burmas? Yeah, so I've grown those once before. Not the kind you're referring to. I'm not as much of an expert in, you know, at least the names and stuff. I've done them a lot of times, but I only tried to grow them once. And it got fucked up. The mycelia got wet. I was using this method. It was this kit that I bought online, and it didn't even come with directions. It was fucking weird, but they sent me all this shit, and you were supposed to like keep, it was a fish tank heater they sent with it to incubate. And you're supposed to put them in like a tub and with water in there, and the fucking water ended up getting into my jars. And it fucking killed them. But yeah, I've done them a bunch of times. Where you seem to know different strains and shit. I don't know all that shit. Hundreds of tubs. Nice, bro. Nice. You're doing the Lord's work. You know what? I won't do that. I was gonna show something on camera. I was about to. Oh, I ain't showing y'all nothing. Fuck y'all. There's got to be a Fed in here. Just don't do it. Yeah, I'm not. I'm new to streaming. You guys save me. Don't. Yeah, play it safe. Fucking save me from having the Fed show up here. All right, let's get back to the video. Sorry.
Psychedelics reflect on this because psychedelics stretch and pull and melt and recast the illusion-producing machinery of language. I mean, I think that if you had to say the one thing that psychedelics do for everyone, whether they have a good trip or a bad trip, because it's up to them to interpret what they make of this, is it shows you the relativity of your cultural viewpoint. You know, that it's just your point of view. You inherited it from a geographical area, a culture, a set of parents. It has no relationship whatsoever to anything anchored in some kind of metaphysical superspace. It's just your cultural point of view. And travel actually does the same thing. And I've always felt there was a weird affinity between psychedelics and travel, and I suppose many people have, or we wouldn't call it a trip. And, you know, we wouldn't call it a journey. But travel shows you the relativity of culture. And what's really happening when you travel, you see, is you're moving from one language domain to another. We don't think of it that way, but that is, in fact, what is happening. You can never see the Amazon jungle if you keep intact the bubble of linguistic assumptions of the place you started out from. Every place will withhold its secrets from you. I learned this in the Amazon because the first time I went, I had virtually no botany. And to me, the jungle was green. That's what it was. And it was many shades of green, and it was beautiful, and it was this and that, but it was basically green. The second time I went, I was with a lot of botanists. And within days, you know, you learn the families. That's how they do it. With the same taxonomy I'm here applying to illusion was really developed to describe plants and animals. So you learn the families, the plants with square stems, the plants with the opposed leaves, the plants with the particular flower structure. Once you know families, then you have a linguistic wedge in. But the corrupting or curious thing about language is that, like all tools, it shapes its user in ways that are not suspected until it's too late. So, for instance, the way in which Western civilization is totally obsessed with the subject-object relationship, and it's the basis of our science, our polity, our relations to commerce, the concept of product. All of these things come out of the subject-object relationship, which is an aspect of language. So I point all this out because in talking about my new book, somebody said that I had gone too far. And I was amused because it implied, from what? It's not like there is a King's X where graybeards in white coats tend the sacred vestal fires of reality. There is no reality. There are only people who know this and people who don't know this and are therefore being manipulated by the people who do know it. This is true, or true enough.
He's so great. God damn it, Terence. Sometimes he speaks so well, and he's so informative and entertaining. It like makes me want to cry that he's gone.
And one of the things that has amazed me with my own personal career, because I started out basically shoveling snow in a cow town in Colorado, and by fate or who knows what, come to the present position. And what I notice as I traverse levels on a supposed ladder of success, where you would expect there to be more and more competition and people and activity, actually it gets emptier and emptier. There is nobody minding the store, as far as I can tell. This is why I'm so unsympathetic to conspiracy theory. We could use a few conspiracies. Nobody is minding the store. Everybody is getting rich, personally rich. And so they don't have time for, to advance the Aryan race or the Council of Zion or any of this fantasy and illusion that haunts the world of conspiracy theory.
So I mentioned at the beginning of the stream that there were some things that I disagree with Terence about. And here we are. Here we are. I just, I get where he's going, but I don't think, there are certain, Terence is really fucking smart. He's an anthropologist, but I think the circles that he runs in and gets involved with, I don't think it's like, the fucking the circuit of intellectuals that are interested in fucking psychedelics and fucking people that went to Berkeley writing books about psychedelics and going to the Amazon and whatever. Like, I feel like the circles that Terence was in are not circles that he would be privy to special information regarding whether or not conspiracy theories are true or not. So, some of them. God, what was he brought something up earlier. Now it's slipped my mind. And, but yeah, no, he's a psychonaut. Sky Thibodeau, thanks for checking out the stream. I don't know if I saw you earlier in the chat. I've seen you in here. I don't know if I highlighted your name before, but thank you for checking out the stream. Yeah. Dude, I don't know. I mean, for sure, bro, people conspire. I mean, there's even, I'm not saying I believe this at all. So no one, I don't know whether it's true or not, but there are people that, and it's funny that Terence would be, speaking against conspiracies, but there is a conspiracy that Terence was a Fed or something. He went to the Amazon, and admittedly, Terence talks about part of the reason. Now, I don't remember the timeline and everything that well, but I was into Terence. There's me and a couple friends that were really got into Terence stuff and tripping together and all this shit. And we have, I think, between all of us, we own every one of his books. I think my buddy got Brotherhood of the Screaming Abyss. I have not read that, but the book about them going to La Chorrera and stuff. Terence was supposedly in trouble, I think, for growing weed or something. He was talking about that he was basically on the run from the law and went to the Amazon. They were going to look for this rare psychedelic plant out in the woods, or brew or something, whatever the fuck they were searching after, that they ended up just doing mushrooms out there instead. But I remember one of these long trips he took to the Amazon was related to the fact that he got busted for something. He was in trouble from the law. And there's a guy, I saw a video probably over 5 years ago. I remember seeing this video where a guy was claiming that he thought Terence was a Fed because he got in trouble. And then they think he was recruited by the CIA to come back to fucking America and start touring and lecturing and writing books about doing psychedelics. But it's like, I don't really think, it's fucking weird. And I know Tim Leary, I don't know the exact connection, but there's some connection with him and the CIA. It's kind of like the proof is in the pudding for me. I know it's like there's always a chance that you could be, if you're promoting some political message or some bullshit, some idea, there's always a chance that you're a victim of someone else's plan and you're being used as a pawn, or, to promote something that's whatever. But with psychedelics, the proof is in the pudding. It's not like this is what I think disproves this idea that either that he was a Fed, or that the feds are trying to get you to do stuff that's bad for you. I mean, it's the stuff he's talking about, psychedelics, is true. I mean, people get therapeutic benefits. The stuff that he talks about you seeing on DMT and mushrooms, it's all true. It's not like he's telling you to go do mushrooms, and then when you do it, it's the same feeling you get from smoking crack, and you just end up a crackhead on the street. If that were the case, it would make sense that Terence was a Fed. But that's the thing with me that I don't understand about some of these people into psychedelics being associated with the CIA, but beyond the fact of, like, I've heard that about the Grateful Dead and stuff too. And ironically enough, Terence was a huge fan of the Grateful Dead also. So, but I don't know if all of this, the CIA's involvement with the psychedelic community and stuff like that has anything to do with just if it's all related to the Vietnam War or not. I'm not sure. I haven't dug deep into any of this bullshit. I mean, it gets so fucking complicated. But these are, this is just the shit that's floating around out there. I'm laying it all out. So yeah, I don't know.
Rather, it seems everything is being left pretty much to develop on its own, because people are afraid to grab or touch the levers and buttons in the control room of the historical vehicle. And what that means then is that people who can cut through these many, many illusions, the illusion of materialism, the illusion of business as usual, the illusion of benevolent institutions carefully guiding us toward reasonable destinies. If you cut through all that, if you disabuse yourself of all that, you will empower yourself to eventually be able to stand up in delicate social and political situations and just say, bullshit. That's bullshit. And this is worth considering doing simply because we have an imperiled planet on our hands. We have been, for a long, long time, the victims of illusion. Western civilization, Stefan Dedalus was right. History is a nightmare from which one must awaken, quite literally. I mean, we have been blind to what we have been doing. We are blind at this moment to what we are doing. If in a single moment the actual nature of our predicament were to fully make itself felt in the mind of any one of us, I think it would be paralyzing. It would be horrifying. We have waited till the last moment of the last hour. The house is burning down around us, and we rouse ourselves from the stupor of materialism, the stupor of Christianity and scientism, the stupor of male dominance, sexism, and racism. If we don't rouse ourselves from this stupor, the momentum toward extinction is now practically irreversible. You know, the Grateful Dead like to sing that song, "We need a miracle every day." We certainly...
Bro, the fucking synchronicity is blowing up tonight, guys. That is fucking weird. Ty E. McCullough Wise. I've been dosed. I think you meant dosed several times when they started running different MK Ultra programs at me. Is this an actual schizophrenic person? No. If you have more than 1,000 people looking to you for influence, the CIA or their assets are somewhere around you, especially in the 60s. No, yeah, so that's what I'm worried about. But the thing is, though, that's what I was saying I don't get with I mean, look at Charles Manson. That's the Fed alert. That's what I don't get with Charles Manson. Fucking Adam and Adam over on the Twitter is saying some people in the YouTube chat are feds. Look, even if you're a fed, welcome. Please, I don't care. Just hit the subscribe button. I'm begging you. Trying to build my page back up. Fucking, Mark Zuckerberg and Google, Xi Jinping, or whoever the fuck is really on my ass. These algorithms, they normally do not favor me. Dutch Duke, what's up, bro? I saw you pop up earlier, and I didn't want to stop the video again. What's up, Famalam? Thanks for coming to hang again. All right, let's get back to it. I think the lecture part, we're getting to the Q&A soon, I think.
Yeah, we certainly do.
No, but the synchronicity, though, for real, he just mentioned fucking the Grateful Dead right after I did. I did not remember that was in here. I haven't seen this thing in, like, at least a year. But I think it may be 2, because I used a clip from this in my podcast, 2 years ago, my pre-recorded podcast, back before I was streaming.
Because and so then that brings me back to my original point, that the moment that outside...
Oh! What the fuck?
The next icon of vacations, Star of the Seas. Book today.
At Sleep Outfitters Outlet, you'll...
Fuck off! I'm not going on a cruise. Sleep Outfitters? I don't know what the fuck this is. I will not buy it, though.
You'll save 40 to 60% every day on Sealy and Stearns & Foster.
I don't need... Well, actually, I do need a mattress. I need a mattress. I need a mattress. But I'm not buying one from you. Fuck off. You've interrupted my show.
The then of culture lies an unmapped terra incognito, as vast as the New World was to the Old in the 15th century, as vast as outer space appears to us now. The New World outside of culture is a world that can be conquered through vision and language. And, many of you have sat through my recitations of what it's like to smoke DMT. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the medieval woodcut of the guy sticking his head through the cogs and wheels of the cosmic machinery to observe a new world outside. The message here is, And it's more than a message. It's a message if you just come to events like this and then go back to studying cost accounting. It's an experience, if you will, but avail yourselves of these tools. The experiences of the discovery of a new world as real as any world that we know. It's not going to come from Time magazine or the Secretary General of the United Nations or anybody like that. It isn't that the world is tired and played out and that all frontiers have been explored. Every culture could support that viewpoint within certain classes and in certain situations. But in fact, it has never been true, and it isn't true now. We are monkeys, and monkeys love a hell of a good fight. And we have a hell of a fight bearing down on us because we have to clean up the mess. We're not going to go silently into the gentle night of extinction. It's just not going to happen that way. Creativity is going to be unleashed. Struggle is going to be an unavoidable part of trying to steer this battleship away from the cataracts of history in which we are now caught.
Whoa. You didn't have to get so serious on us, Terence. Steve, are you into esotericism? I don't know. Am I? I'm just, I was into paganism and unfortunately Satanism. I did get into that a little bit when I was younger. I was a fucked up little kid. I know some people, so any of you that are on the YouTube that are new to my channel, you might not know, but like my name's Dark Match Steve. Some of the people that are familiar with my channel know of me because I do parody songs for the Bubba the Love Sponge show. I don't get paid, I send them, I submit them in, and there was a couple other guys that were doing them too. And anyway, and I have parody songs on my channel. I have songs about Tim Walz, and I got a P. Diddy parody song, and I write songs about all kinds of whatever. I know people probably just assume like, oh, Steve, like the people that are familiar with me are like, oh, it's Steve, he's funny, and like, guys, you have no idea how fucked up I was as a kid. You have no idea. It was a struggle. It was a struggle, guys. I was into fucked up shit. I was on antidepressant fucking bullshit made by Pfizer and whatever, and just like, and I was in some dark mental states. I was in some dark places. No pun intended. The name of the show is Dark Match Steve. Thank you. Or the name of the show is Dark Times with Dark Match Steve. Fucking anyway. But yeah, I was into Satanism and all that kind of bullshit, and I kind of, I weaned off of it, and basically psychedelics kind of saved me. I discovered, I mentioned it already, that I discovered LSD when I was in high school, my senior year, and it helped me a lot. And that meant when I tripped, it was I forget how many trips it was, but after a few, I realized, and at one point I had gotten kicked out of my house and didn't have access to my antidepressants, and I did LSD, and it was like a week or two after I hadn't taken antidepressants, did LSD at Fort DeSoto in Florida, Fort DeSoto Park. And it made me realize I don't need the antidepressants, and it started me down this whole journey. So I'm not into, I'm not into anything specifically besides like, psychedelics. I appreciate them. I don't do them as often as I used to, but when I was in high school and getting out of high school, I was like fucked up in the head, and I needed to like escape, and anyway, so that's what I'm into. I'm not into any religious fucking anything now. I'm just like, I'm kind of tripping all the time, and I'm kind of to a point where I do think we're like in some kind of simulation type of thing. You know, that's kind of where I'm at. I know that's long-winded. You asked me if I'm into esotericism or yeah, I know I get long-winded. I do the Lord's work. Thank you, Funny Face. I appreciate it. What's with the hat? DEA. Don't even ask. Get it? Don't even ask. Life is a struggle for everyone. Yeah, no, that's for sure, bro. That's the truth. It ain't all fucking kitty cats and puppy dogs. Bowls of ice cream sure isn't. I did acid when I was 17. Yeah, you guys, you know what? Just as a metaphor, this is a good metaphor for the role psychedelics have played in my life. Guys, this is like the coolest fact about my life, okay? This right here, what I'm about to tell you, this is one of like the most proud moments for me. When I graduated high school, like I said, I found psychedelics, I think it was senior year. I don't think I was doing acid when I was a junior, but for sure senior year. I remember I got it from a kid at school, or that I went to school with. I didn't get it at school. Anyway, when I walked across the stage graduating in my robe, my gown thing with the hat, I had 6 hits of acid in my pocket for later that night. That's a good metaphor for, you know, the role they played in my life. They were with me when I walked across the stage to fucking graduate. That's I love that I did that. I'll forever remember. I walked across the stage and got a diploma handed to me in front of the principal from my middle school that was busting my balls, that fucking hated me and probably wished I was dead. And here I am. I have 6 hits of acid walking across the stage, getting a diploma in front of that cunt. Good shit. Proud moment for me. Anyway, let's get back to this. It's getting late.
I believe that there is a tremendous obligation upon the privileged classes of the high-tech industrial democracies, and I dare say that includes everyone in this room, a tremendous obligation to attempt to deconstruct the bomb that we have inherited. I mean, that is literally our situation. The gift from the past, from the 19th century, from the 1940s, from the psychology of Nixon and Johnson and that crowd, is a ticking bomb, except that it's a planet. And it's the greatest challenge to intelligence that intelligence has ever faced. And yet it's precisely the kind of challenge that intelligence should be able to meet, because what it requires is large-scale strategic planning, implementation of visionary responses. It is not incremental. It's sudden, complete, and dramatic. And I really believe that there will only be one chance. You know, we are circling the runway of post-history, and the engines are running low, and there is one approach. And then, you know, if you miss that approach, you're into the drink. Now, we have the great good fortune to be approaching the end of a millennium. Would it be redundant to say this only happens once in 1,000 years? Yes. And it's extraordinarily fortunate. Once I was in England and I ran into somebody I hadn't seen for 20 years. And I was amazed, and I said to Rupert, how often does one get a chance to meet someone one hasn't seen for 20 years? And he said, well, I dare say, I suppose every 20 years or so. We can use the millennium, this apparent coincidence of our dilemma and a calendrical turning point, to create awareness of opportunity. And we can use the psychedelics to dissolve boundaries between ourselves and other people, between institutions that govern and the governed. And basically, we have to insist on the seriousness of the situation and the potential for solutions. And what it means is a much more radical break with American society than we've been willing to contemplate in the last 20 years.
Let's see. Hold on a second. Cabeza de Pija. the Pija. Okay, I wanted to see this stream because when it comes to Terence McKenna, dude, he's like Carl Sagan or that other one that coined the term tune in, drop out. Yeah, fucking Timothy Leary. They did too much acid and they wallow in the smell of their own bullshit. They're pseudo philosophers. So I'm not as familiar with Timothy Leary or Carl Sagan, for that matter. I know I'm very familiar with Terence McKenna, but I think Terence is. Yeah, I can't. I can't give a fair comparison. I mean, I love the Tool Salival album, the intro for Third Eye, the song by Tool. That is that's Timothy Leary speaking, and I like that segment. We might actually play that to end the show or something if it's not too late. But yeah, so I can't give a fair comparison with between Terence and Timothy Leary. I mean, Leary, I think. See, I haven't listened to a bunch of his lectures. I saw different interviews and stuff he did, and different shit like that. I've gotten glimpses and little snippets of him, but a full lecture like this, I don't. I've maybe seen one or two, or back in the day when I was doing a lot of acid. But Terence is just has such a well of knowledge. He's real. I mean, he's an anthropologist and he has such an interesting perspective with psychedelics and stuff like that relating to human history that I think it makes it very interesting. It's not like fucking what's his name? God damn, what's the Indian philosopher guy that always gets beat up on by Sam Harris and he's done debates. I forget his fucking name. But anyway, he's not one of these guys that just does woo-woo fucking, God, what is his name? They used to troll this fucking Indian philosopher guy. He would say the quantum da 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 da, and he would spin all these words together, but it would kind of just not really mean anything. Terence, I think, is a far cry from that. I mean, he's in a totally different thing. He fucking he relates everything, back to, he brings data points and his knowledge of history to back up a lot of the stuff that he says. It's not just philosophical fucking, blabbermouth.
We went through this thing with, the two-term governor of Arkansas, and it took a year and a half to play that all out and to see what it comes to. And what it comes to is, Washington is convulsed over the possibility of closing an air base near Sacramento. So how can we even conceive of this government making an impact on the real problems? It is still government by flim-flam. And that would be all very well if we had 500 years to dig ourselves out of this dilemma. But if a radical political alternative is not opened up in this country, then we are essentially, I think, going to amuse and entertain ourselves into extinction. The ordinary orthodox system has failed. What Bill Clinton exists to prove, at best, is that people of goodwill make no difference in those institutions because they are compromised and corrupted from the very beginning. It's just the way it is. Those institutions are set up for business as usual. Business as usual at this point is a death sentence on the human race. What has to be done is a tribalizing of culture, an ecstaticizing of culture, a dissolving of hierarchy. That means self-empowerment through claiming the new information technologies, through deconditioning from propaganda, through deconditioning from the pharmaphobia that holds everyone within the pre-programmed molds that are being handed down from Madison Avenue and Hollywood. It means actually realizing that your life is your own. Your destiny is your own. It isn't within the confines of the culture because the culture is dissolving. And to the degree that the word is put out, that phenomenon will accelerate. We are in an extraordinary transition. Everything that has worked now doesn't, meaning global economic systems, control of the spread of epidemic disease, so forth and so on. All these.
So I found the name, Deepak Chopra. Sorry, I forget your name. The guy that was in here saying pseudo-philosopher. Deepak Chopra is the guy that I was thinking of. He's the guy that he debates. He'll debate fucking, like, I tried to find it. I couldn't remember his name, but I remember he debated Michael Shermer and Sam Harris in this one thing. And they were talking about, all kinds of shit. Future of God debate is the title of this other debate, if you want to go watch it. But yeah, Deepak Chopra is the guy that he kind of, if when I hear pseudo philosopher and stewing in the smell of their own shit, like the person said in my chat, that's who I think of is Deepak, and they always made fun of him in these debates because he would do a spiel for a minute and talk about quantum connection, something, your soul, and this and that. He mixed all of it. It's like word salad. And they'd ask him, bro, what did you eat? What did you just say? What you just said? What does that mean? Because no one understands it. And it sounds fantastical and whatever. It's woo-woo. And no one knows what you're fucking saying because it's bullshit. You're just combining spooky words. That is not what Terence McKenna does.
Systems are breaking down, and yet the new systems are not yet in place. So this is a situation of extraordinary malleability and a situation in which people of great vision and
yeah, that DMT bullshit. What's bullshit about DMT? You think that there aren't aliens? You think when you smoke DMT it does nothing? Bro, you're making me feel like you're the Fed. I know there's at least one Fed in watching my stream right now on one of the places I'm streaming, and that's okay. Please hit the subscribe button. Could use the support. Drug-induced psychosis. Well, that's the same. You can say the same thing about normal everyday consciousness is drug-induced psychosis. Your brain is running on drugs. It's neurotransmitters. Every moment you experience in life is a drug-induced psychosis. Thank you.
And great ego can make tremendous impact. So it's a very dangerous situation. We saw this in the 1930s in Germany and in Europe, where there were all kinds of potentials.
Dude, I do tons of drugs. This is definitely a Fed. Oh, fuck. Please come to my house. I have DMT to sell you, please. Oh, fuck.
Kinds of possibilities. We forget how powerful a visionary Marxism was before the rise of...
I'm just playing. I'm just playing around. I don't know if you're a Fed.
Fascism, movements...
We're never going to get through this goddamn video, guys. Come on. Let's get it together.
Like Bauhaus and Dada and Surrealism all had agendas which disappeared then under the rise of fascism. This must not happen again. And what it has to do with is resisting images that are coming from the reality studio, resisting the images that are coming off the tube, coming through the newspapers, and creating a community based on psychedelics, sexuality, sensitivity, and good sense. Cultural value, and what good sense will mean in this situation is the preservation of the earth, the preservation of diversity, deconditioning from product fetishism, deconditioning from energy overconsumption. All these things we understand, but we seem to lack the power to change our minds, or if we have that power, then the power to change other people's minds. And I am into psychedelics, not because I think it's a sure thing, but because I think it is the only game in town. In other words, it's the only thing I've ever seen change an individual on a time scale similar to the time scale that we have if we're going to make a difference. I've seen over and over again, I'm sure many of you have, people go into a psychedelic jerks and come out halfway decent human beings, 8 hours later. If we had 500 years to steer global society into safe harbor, it might be possible to do that, but we don't. I mean, I really believe that we are being asked to participate in the birthing of a new order of being, and that there is reason for great optimism and hope, because it looks like we're just boring into solid rock. But in fact, there's somebody else boring through that solid rock, and they have triangulated our approach, and they are hurrying to meet us. I don't think we fell into this situation because of bad fate or bad destiny. This is part of the process. History is what happens when an animal species, an advanced animal, falls under the influence of a transformative attractor of some sort. History is only about 25,000 years in duration. The interesting part in the last 5,000 years, what has happened is that something confounding has entered the local situation, or was always dormant there but has stirred to wakefulness. And it is not God, not the God that in Milton's wonderful phrase hung the lamps like stars in heaven. It isn't that God. Maybe it's the God of biology, but whatever it is to us as we are to the termite. And what it is doing is it is casting an enormous transcendental shadow back through time over the epigenetic landscape of biological becoming. And in our species, for reasons mysterious to me, we mirror this thing. And it has swung our compass away from the forward flow of genetic theme and variation, and in a course orthogonal to biology, a course set on the transcendental. And it is pulling us toward it through the medium of transforming our languages, through the medium of the imagination, which is, after all, this mysterious mental domain in which we are whispered to by angels, demons, gods, ancestors, aliens. And out of that intercourse, culture, self-transforming, shedding its face every 100 years, building on novelty, is ascending toward a reaching out toward the unspeakable. This has been going on, I think, for billions of years. It has obviously and incontrovertibly been going on since the advent of consciousness in the human species. And now we're there. We're in the final domain of the confrontation with the secret. It is impossible to conceive of history going on for hundreds of years. The planet cannot sustain it. All of these social structures and institutions that we have surrounded ourselves with are obviously lifeboats. They are not made to last. They are made to carry us to a certain point in the life of the Earth, and we are now there, or we are within 20, 30, 40, 50 years of confronting the transcendental object at the end of time that drew us out of the animal body. History is the proof and the shockwave of the Escaton. This is a hard thing for secular audiences to wrap their minds around because they're familiar with hearing this from rattlesnake-handling Christers. But that's simply because religion has always been the repository of the irrational intuition. It never said that the irrational intuition is ipso facto false. It becomes a travesty when hung with the trappings of dogma derived through the scholarly revelation of weasels. But the intuition is pristine, and the intuition of Islam, Judaism, Christianity, and cults innumerable is that there is a finiteness to the historical experience. And then the more staid the ontology, the further into the future they put it, so they can continue trading real estate for the next little while. I think that it is now possible to extrapolate the curves that describe our degradation of the planet, the spread of epidemic diseases, the ozone hole, the extraction of metals, the clearing of the rainforest, the rise of population, the spread of toxic compounds, so forth, to convince yourself, even from a rational point of view, that history is a self-limiting process. Well, if you're a rationalist, then you must conclude we're just headed for extinction. I would think then the rational response to that logical process would be to get your ass in gear and try and avert the extinction. And if you're not a rationalist, then the conclusion you draw from all that is that we are within striking distance of merging with the mysterious hyperspatial source of our intelligence, and that somehow this is a planetary birthing, something as scripted as the breakup of Pangaea or the movement of glaciers south from the pole. It's just part of the process. The culture exists to transform mind out of the domain of matter. We are rising toward the rarefaction of ourselves into the transcendental plasmate body of alchemical and Buddhist preoccupation. This is what is calling us out of matter. It's what called the monkeys out of animal organization. It's what calls technology out of the restless hands of the hominids. And it is what is calling all of us toward a kind of fusion with the community, with the psychedelic totality of the species and with the larger Gaian totality of the planet. This is what it all went for. This is the promise and the redemption of history. Without this redemption, then history becomes the abortion that materialists fear it is. This is why the legitimate path to the transcendental, the linking of the individual with the transcendental through psychedelics, now becomes the most important political work that can be done in the light of the rising awareness of the end of history. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I got a phone call, guys. That's my buddy, so I gotta get off sometime soon. But we'll get into the Q&A. There's still a lot left here, but we'll get a good ways into this, I guess. And yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Well, all of you who stayed, the intrepid core, I'll just go through these. I've not had any chance to look at them, and handwriting is also degraded here at the end of the world, so it's a little hard to sort out some of this.
So yeah, consider, I did mention the time wave zero shit, and he said I think it's possible to track the ebb and flow of novelty in human history and whatever. I think he was alluding there to the time wave zero program that he made. But yeah, consider this. I don't know what year this was. This was probably like 1999 or 98, maybe something like that. I don't know. But he thought that 2012. He with his program lining up with the Mayan calendar and whatever. He thought 2012 was going to be it, or something was going to happen 2012. I was talking to a friend about, I forget the point that I made about this, but it does seem like something has happened. Like there's been some kind of shift. And I think the point I made to a friend of mine when I was pondering this, like tripping and whatever, and but it seems like, and I don't know if 2012, December 21st is the actual day. I thought he died in 2001. I could be wrong. But yeah, fucking 2012, fucking it does almost seem like, if I was going to say there's been some kind of shift that happened around 2012. And to some of y'all that don't know, I've mentioned this on the stream before, not in the full context of watching Terence or whatever, but I stayed off of social media until after 2012. I thought 2012, I don't know what I thought was going to happen, but I thought it would be better for me to not have a Facebook or Instagram or fucking anything. So like all my friends had Facebook, and I don't know if Instagram was a thing back then. I think it was. I got Facebook and Instagram, I think 2014 is when I finally caved. But I thought it had, Terence sort of mentioned, the Mayan calendar. Yeah. The end of the Mayan calendar. Yeah, but Terence McKenna, I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, Adam Wiley, the fucking Terence McKenna used the I Ching, this ancient Chinese divination tool. It got mentioned, the Tommy Chong interview, Joe Rogan podcast, he talks about it. I think there's a clip that isolates exactly his experience using the I Ching while he was in prison, and the prisoners were getting like freaked out because it seemed to work and whatnot. Anyway, fucking if there was a shift, I was talking to a friend about this. And I thought Terence sort of mentioned artificial intelligence. There's been a few times he mentioned artificial intelligence, and that he thought it would be something that would pop up on the internet and it would hide. And I thought 2012 would be like something to do with artificial intelligence and people having fucking Facebook accounts and stuff. Fucked up part is I'm probably right about it now, but the date was wrong. Like, everybody's getting controlled by fucking bots and shit because they have social media. And anyway, but yeah, 2012. fucking God, where there was something else I was gonna say. Anyway, he thought, oh yeah, one shift that I think may have been again, I'm probably wrong about this, but anyway, I remember saying this, and there might be something to it. But up until 2012, it almost seems like the technology that was sort of the standard, around the planet in developed countries, the technology up to that point was helping us. The technology was like an extension of our senses and our limbs and whatever. Now I think there's been some kind of shift, and this is probably just a stoner idea or whatever, but it seems like now there's a shift where we're working for the technology now. Like now it's like we're a slave to it. Technology is it's like it has it. Even if there isn't a true conscious artificial intelligence, it seems like we're sort of a slave to the technology. Whereas up until maybe not 2012 specifically, but up into a certain point of recent history, it was like technology was always something that we used to help ourselves and get along. And now it's like the fucking life expectancy and stuff is receding in developed nations and stuff like that. We're all, especially the United States, we're all on too many fucking drugs and bullshit. There's all kinds of fucking poison and all the fucking food and everything. And technology is being used to suppress information on social media, and everybody's fucking fighting with each other because we got shitty algorithms and stuff like that. It's like technology is being used completely differently than it was 20 years ago, something like that. I don't know. That's like if there's a palpable shift that you could say happened around the time of 2012, something like that. That's kind of what I felt, or I've said before, seemed to be the case.
What role does an individual psychedelic experience play in the massive changes that you're anticipating? It would seem to me, my model for the psychedelic experience, there have been a number of them. The idea that it mimics madness, that was one idea. That it takes you into the Jungian unconscious, that was one notion. That it somehow illuminates the concepts of Indian yoga or after-death models, such as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. All of these have been tried. My assumption has been a mathematical one, that what psychedelics are about is that mind, under the pressure of evolutionary constraints, turns itself into a threat detection device. And that's how we use it in three-dimensional space, to anticipate threat and to meet it. But that is, as it were, a lower order application of mind, and that in silent darkness, what happens on psychedelics is that the mind unfolds literally into a kind of superspace or a higher dimension in the mathematical sense, because I take seriously the claims made in all times and places for millennia that shamans can locate lost objects, predict weather, see where the game has gone, and predict the outcome of disease situations. In all cases, what is involved is a higher dimensional relationship to the manifold of history. So I think that you all understand that a locked box, if we had a padlocked box here on stage, a locked box is not locked in hyperspace. It has a dimension in hyperspace from which the contents of the locked box are easily removed, taken out, and put back. In our world, this looks like magic. Shamanism is like this. And so, to answer the question, what role does an individual psychedelic experience play in the massive changes anticipated? The role is that the individual gets in on the joke. At this stage in history, to be a shaman is to have seen the end. And if you've seen the end, it's like, taking Anna Karenina and reading the last 5 pages. And then as you make your way through this bewildering morass of material, you do have the faith that it's all going to end up as you discern. So that's the political act. You see, terror of the future is one of the weapons by which the rationalists are holding everybody in line. Terror of the future can be put out to pasture through psychedelic shamanism. Okay. It seems mushrooms for the masses is not really what you advocate. mushrooms for the masses doesn't sound like such a terrible idea. I mean, I always equivocate by saying, if your problem is maintaining boundaries, then you probably shouldn't take any psychedelics. But you can't, in a mature civilization, you don't define opportunities based on what will be detrimental to a small minority. Mushrooms.
The fat pig. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Please, yeah, guys, I could use the support. I cover all kinds of topics here on my stream. We're going to try to not make it too fucking political every night like it's been with the goddamn election. So, whatever, just feel free. It's not, I'm not a one-trick pony over here. We cover a lot of shit. And we'll be reviewing more Terence stuff in the future too. So please hit the like, follow, subscribe, wherever you're watching, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at the moment. And get up in the chat. I love talking to you guys in the chat. I like to hear what other people think about this stuff, especially Terence. Terence has been a big part of my life. There, he said it. What did he say? Okay, hold on. Let's get back to it. I gotta get off here soon, guys.
For the masses seems to me a fine idea. I just don't see how it can ever come about, because I believe that the society shaping effects of these things are so powerful that they will never be tolerated. Just to go off on a tangent for a moment, this is why I am an incredibly pessimistic person about getting pot legalized. Because as far as I can tell, the argument now in favor of legalizing cannabis is that it ain't no big deal, so why not legalize it? The problem is it is a big deal. You just have to bake it into some banana bread and you'll find out what a deal it is. So, and if you read the 19th century accounts like Fitzhugh Ludlow, the hashish eater, people like that, it's perfectly clear that it can reach LSD levels of intensity if you eat it. And the question, if pot were judged on its social impact, or its lack of addiction, its lack of detriment to health, it would have been legal a long time ago. But it subtly erodes commitment to dominator values in ways that are absolutely intolerable to dominator institutions. They'll let gays in the military before they'll legalize pot. That's how threatened they are by pot.
Okay, that's the holy shit, guys. I swear to God, I couldn't remember what lecture that was from, but I mentioned that at the beginning of the lecture. This is one of the predictions Terence made. This was an offhanded comment, and he was right. They they let gays in the military, and cannabis is still illegal federally.
Well, let's see here. Recently, you appeared on talk radio with LA Police Chief Daryl Gates. What was the inside story, and do you feel you were heard by him? Well, yes, I won't give this too much time. I did appear with Daryl Gates on his radio show. Clearly, they're desperate to raise ratings. They'll do almost anything at this point. And
yeah, Kevin Waytrek, is that how you pronounce it? Yeah, there's been one or two people that are kind of critical of Terence and speakers like him that have been in the chat tonight and whatever. This is a point I sort of made earlier. He has such a good anthropological understanding, and he has such a good understanding of history and the way he presents it in the context of whatever the fuck he's talking about. And of course, he's a great speaker and does understand more scientific language and stuff. So it's like he really is he's an all around. He's the full package here to deliver some of his ideas. He does make it very interesting. It's not like Deepak Chopra or some of these fucking guys that will just spew fucking whatever, the combined spiritual terminology with scientific terminology, and it'll be just a fucking jumbled mess, and you end up not knowing what the fuck they said. That's not the case with Terence. If you're actually paying attention, you might have to Google a couple things to definitions and whatnot, but if you actually are paying attention, you'll walk away with new knowledge.
Daryl Gates was a pussycat, very easily intimidated by, I make no great claims in this area, but intelligence. He completely folded in the presence of, academic calm, big words, citation, that sort of thing. what is the difference between your vision of the end of history and the Christian belief in a savior? This is a great question. Well, it's complicated. The way I think of this transcendental object at the end of time is on this level. For purposes of metaphor, it's like those mirrored ball bars that they hang in discos, you know, that spins and sends out scintillations of light all over the walls, ceiling, and floor of the room. The transcendental object at the end of time, and I like that image because alchemists used to talk about what they called the scintilla, which is simply Latin for spark. So the transcendental object at the end of time sends off scintillas, sparks which are like reflections of its essence, but necessarily distorted. Well, then, ranged all around this transcendental object and at greater and lesser distances are all the people who have ever lived. And if you are a Buddha, a Christ, a Mohammed, a guru, somebody or other, and you are, what that means is that you have been struck by a scintilla of reflection from the transcendental object. And so you, as it were, have assimilated its essence into your being, and now you must act it out. And I would bet you that if you could step into the mind of a Christ on the road to Calvary or a Buddha preaching at Sarnath, what you would discover going on in the personal part of the mind is the question, why me? Why me? And the answer is, you just are dumb lucky, that's all. You know, you just happen to be standing in the right place at the right time, and there's nothing special about you. You just have a hit of the stuff. And then the other part of the question, the problem with all these religions, and it affects flying saucer cults, and it affects occult schools of magic, and everywhere, is people claim to know too much. They are not willing to live in the light of ignorance and in the absence of closure. So, you know, my God, you go to these UFO conferences, and, you know, you've got the people talking to the Pleiadians in booth 1. Next to them, people are talking to Commander Zammo of the Antares system. And then number 3, something else. No cognitive dissonance between these groups. They all have coffee together and are dating heavily, and it doesn't ever seem to enter anybody's mind that this is a little odd. In occult stuff, you know, you say, what's that? And they say, well, that's the 11th amethystine ray that was brought by the great white fathers of the 11th Lodge who came from the galactic center at the fall of Atlantis and established the... See, how the hell do you know all this stuff? You know, I mean, nobody knows anything. And Christianity, the anticipation of the end of the world and the exegesis of revelations that has been worked out based on the visions of John of Athos, you know, it's a good try, but it's not a paint-by-numbers script for the unfolding of the world by any means. When the transcendental object at the end of time finally reveals its quintessence among us, all prophecies will be fulfilled. All religious ontologies will find themselves somehow vindicated and somehow humbled in the same moment. Because they were, in fact, in Wordsworth's wonderful phrase, intimations of immortality. But you don't need to rely on these sanctioned intimations of immortality. You can have your own simply by taking 5 grams in silent darkness on an empty stomach after you've unplugged the phones on a Saturday night in your apartment. The real research into the nature of the eschaton is done one-on-one above 5 grams. Well, let's see here. I once heard you talk about an experiment your brother undertook where he was raving for 3 weeks, but you never explained what the experiment involved. What was it? Well, what a wonderful opportunity. True hallucinations. I never talked about this, even often to very dear friends of mine. I mean, there are people who've known me for 20 years who I never told this story to because I think it takes as long to tell as it takes to read this book. You know, that wonderful scene in Wells' Time Machine when he comes back to his gentleman's club and he says, gentlemen, this is no tale to be told over greasy plates. Well, similarly with this. So I didn't also want to make it the basis for my public career because this is real, well, I almost said nutty stuff. I generally disbelieve in violations of physical law and miracles, but I did actually, in the course, I'm 46, I have seen 3 or 4 in my lifetime, and each time it's absolutely astonishing. Whole worlds of possible questions are instantly answered, and I wrote this book to inspire people to follow our method, which is, our method is the rational but stoned mind in confrontation with the obscure. Seek ye the obscure. You know?
So if I recommend if you, I think that is True Hallucinations. I think that is one of the, I think I read most of that one. If that's the story about him and his brother going to the Amazon and Rational but Stoned, yes. They go to the Amazon looking for that psychedelic, and they end up out there on mushrooms and taking there's some other plant. The situation with his brother. You guys, I mentioned his brother, Dennis McKenna, at the beginning of the podcast, or the stream, whatever. Dennis McKenna has been on Joe Rogan's podcast a few times, and he talked about what happened, the story in this book. If you do, I do recommend go, get the book, read the book, because it is good. It's a good read. That's one of the last books that I actually read, most of it. I'm not huge on reading books. I read tons of fucking bullshit all day online. But anyway, it's a crazy story with him and his brother out there in the Amazon. If I remember correctly, they found all of these fucking mushrooms out there, and they were basically they literally just about ran out of food and were kind of just taking the mushrooms all the time. And I think Dennis McKenna ate some MDM, or not MDMA. I was going to say MAOI, monoamine oxidase, some kind of they used some other plant. I remember them talking about smoking it while on the shrooms and whatever, but they used some other kind of plant that basically superpowered the mushrooms in their system. And it made Dennis McKenna, Terrence's brother, he kind of lost his mind for, I think it was a week or days or whatever. Supposedly he didn't sleep at all. He was just fucked up the whole time on shrooms. He doesn't remember eating or doing anything normal. He just remembers being in hyperspace for days and days and days, and basically lost his mind out in the fucking woods. And there were other people there with him and stuff, and they were worried that Dennis lost his fucking mind, which he did, but he came back, I guess you could say. But he describes this on Rogan's podcast. One of those podcasts, Dennis McKenna talks about. If you're interested in hearing the story they're referring to here, that you can find it in one of those.
If a book is not at least 100 years old, don't read it. If a country has more than one international airport, don't visit it. If a village has more than one outboard motor, don't stay, and just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because out there at the edges are the edges. And that they're edges because nobody goes there, because the unsanctioned is hidden there. That's where the shamans are, and the mad people, and the sexual experimentalists, and the aesthetic experimentalists. That really is the method, not belief. Belief is a toxic and dangerous attitude toward reality, I think. After all, if it's there, it doesn't require your belief. And if it's not...
Yeah, Aiden is Lamazy. What's up, dude? Thanks for checking out the stream. Yeah, I fucking love Terence McKenna. I've watched a shitload. It's probably a toss-up if there is a lecture out there that I haven't heard. I kind of don't think it's possible. I've listened to so much Terence McKenna shit. I don't know if that's possible, that there's a lecture I haven't fucking listened to or seen. Dennis said he was spread across space and time, and Terence said Dennis would talk backwards. Yeah, I remember some. What were some of the stories they said about I don't remember if Terence said this in the book or if Dennis said it on Rogan's podcast, but something about when he spoke, it was, something about, Dennis said something about calling his mother on the phone back when, this is going to sound confusing, but when Dennis was fucked up on the shroom MAOI mixture that he was in hyperspace, cross space and time, as you said, Aiden, something about that and I know this sounds ridiculous and whatever, but something that right in that moment, he called his mother on the phone without using a phone. He called his mother and spoke to her on the phone. And it was when he spoke to her when they were kids. Something fucking weird like that. Like he called his mother in the past or something. I don't fucking know. It was something crazy. It's an interesting story, though.
not there, why should you believe in it? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. By eliminating money and the separateness that it causes, could the world be saved by sharing the resources and the work and eliminating all the unnecessary waste of energy and needless competition and consumption? Well, I'm not sure how money could be eliminated. See, I'm a funny person. I vacillate between, I have a very strong impulse toward political action and save the world and round up the miscreants and set things right. That's part of my thing. But I also have this incredibly evolved sense that it's a done deal, that it's okay, that the main task is a certain alertness and attention to one's comrades, and that it will all unfold through the intercession of the transcendental object at the end of time. People say this is a contradiction. Fine, it's a contradiction. I mean, what are we doing here anyway? Is life supposed to be simple? But I preface that by saying, one time somebody in a group like this challenged me and said, you're always talking about the peril of the planet and one thing and another. Why don't you ask the mushroom how to save the planet? And so then I thought that was kind of a facetious and challenging thing to propose. But the next time I found myself capable of asking the question, I did. And the mushroom hesitated, and now I pass this on to you as pure fungal hearsay on the networks. I said to the mushroom, so how can we save the world? And it hesitated roughly a third of a second and said every woman should bear only one natural child. I thought about this for a long time before I ever publicly mentioned it to anyone, and I realized, you see, I think that what is destroying us are two things. Number one, an uncontrolled rise in population that wipes out every good intention, every social program, every expansion of agriculture succumbs to expanded population. This is destroying us. The other thing that is destroying us is that we are not properly utilizing the intelligence, talent, and so forth of half of our population, the female half of the population. Now, people say...
promo code Lummy. What's up, bro? Thank you, lover. Finally made it. Yeah, this has been a crazy one. We're going over Terence McKenna stuff. This is the first time I've, done a react to a Terence video on stream.
That we must, women must be promoted to professional positions and power positions. And of course, this is true, and I agree. But what is really holding women back is that they spend a staggering amount of their creative lifespan raising children. And if every woman were to bear only one natural child, the population of the planet would fall by 50% in 40 years. Without wars, epidemic diseases, it would just naturally fall in half. Now, I don't think very many people have ever considered this possibility. We tend to think that our problems are insoluble. They are not insoluble. Furthermore, it turns out, and here's news nobody...
Yeah, no, this is what it's underpopulation that is hurting us. No, it's a funny thing. I guess back then, this was a suitable answer. Now we've got the wrong problem because, I guess whatever, the drugs... the pharmaceuticals and or fucking, drugs that are in fucking everything, the food and the goddamn water, and life expectancy is shorter. We're like below replacement rate, which one child per woman is, that's below replacement rate, that's the point. But I don't think, now that might be a problem.
He likes to hear. A child born to a woman in Santa Cruz, compared to a child born to a woman in Bangladesh, that child will use between 800 and 1,000 times more resources than the Bangladeshi child in its lifetime. So where do we preach population control? The third world, because that's where all the people are. But that's not the problem. People are not the problem. Incredible consumption by some people is the problem. It would be possible to imagine a world where governmental institutions or whoever's running things could go to women and say, how would you like to have vastly increased leisure time? How would you like to have an increased expendable income? And how would you like to have genuine status as a hero in the struggle to save the planet? If women were to have only one natural child, women would very naturally come into an enormous empowerment. No institution could deny it to them. And interestingly enough, this is not a plan where men, who have always been the planners and the managers of plans, play much of a role at all. Well, I just pass that off in case you don't want to put your trust in the transcendental object at the end of the world. Then the most politically conscious thing, apparently from the mushroom's point of view, that you could do is encourage those kinds of policies and that kind of attitude.
How many unnatural children?
Are there unnatural children? Oh dear, still carrying a grudge? Leave it. Leave it to Saddam. No, that is not true. That's what I always put out. The fact of the matter is, in 1800, the average American woman gave birth 13 times in the course of her lifetime. The two-child family is a genuflection to the Industrial Revolution. No traditional culture on this planet ever advocated the two-child family. It's a convenience that allows factories to run and jobs to be filled. And in fact, as the father of two children, I would argue that the two-child family, what happens is the children mirror the tension between the parents in a way that happens in no other configuration of parent-child relationship. So I would actually argue that the so-called family values that these right-wingers are constantly dinging us to preserve are in fact values created to support the agenda of the Industrial Revolution, which means global capitalism. And they have nothing to do with archaic values, which are enormous families, not nuclear families, but extended families living communally. That's the traditional model, and if you're not ready to go back to that, then one woman, one child is as good as anything else, in my humble opinion. Let's see here. You mentioned earlier this evening that psychedelics played a role in human evolution. How so? Thank you for not groaning, those of you who have heard me explain this 18 times. Because it may be my only crack at getting into the history books. It's
the stoned ape theory.
Seems to me clear, well, it seems to everybody who looks at the question clear, that the theory of evolution is handed a tremendous dilemma when it comes to human evolution. A planet of groundhogs, hummingbirds, and slime molds poses no problem to Darwinian evolution as modified by molecular genetics. We pose a problem, specifically our brain, and its doubling in size in less than 2 million years is very difficult for the theory of evolution to explain. And it's a particular embarrassment because that's the organ which generated the theory of evolution. So it's like a real rip in the sail of the galleon of evolution. I believe, and everyone believes, that there must have been extraordinary selective pressures of a unique sort upon our early ancestors to have produced the human brain in such a short amount of time. And I think that the answer, and I don't want to go into it in detail tonight, but briefly, here's what it is. And it explains a lot about our sexuality and our politics and so forth. All primates, clear back to squirrel monkeys and like that, have what are called dominance hierarchies. We all know what this means. It means that the hard-muscled, long-fanged young males run roughshod over everybody else. The women, the children, homosexuals, the old, everybody gets their marching orders from the dominant males. This is true throughout the primates, and it is true of us as we sit here this evening. That's what's screwing up our politics and making us, the situation with women and so forth and so on, and it can be argued to other social problems as well. I believe that psilocybin, because it dissolves boundaries, is uniquely positioned to mitigate against this tendency toward male dominance for a number of reasons. And when our remote ancestors moved out of the trees and into the grasslands, they encountered these mushrooms. And I think the great undiscussed frontier of evolutionary theory is the effect of mutagens in foods on human evolution. Most animals maintain a very narrow food menu to avoid contact with mutagens. When we were forced out of the arboreal canopy, we became omnivores. We came under nutritional pressure, and for a long time we were testing all kinds of foods, and that would have meant a very high rate of mutation through that period and an acceleration in natural selection. And I think that psilocybin, because it improves visual acuity, would have given a leg up to predators and hunter-gathering proto-hominids. And so, in a sense, there was a period of time, perhaps as short as 100,000 years, perhaps as long as 1 million or more years, when male dominance in our species was suppressed chemically by psilocybin in the diet. It was still there, hardwired in the genes, but chemically suppressed by an orgiastic religious style that had everybody taking mushrooms at the new and full moon and then having sex in a heap, basically. This made it impossible for men to trace lines of male paternity. That's a consequence of an orgiastic society. And a kind of paradise evolved. And it was during that paradisical interlude that language, theater, altruism, metaphysics, poetry, dance, religion, all of the functions that we equate with unique humanness evolved under the aegis of a near symbiosis with psilocybin mushrooms. And then, and this all was happening in Africa, then through climatic upheaval, drying of the African continent, the mushrooms disappeared, and God forbid, the old wiring reasserted itself. It must have been hell on earth. It must have been similar to what we're living through. It must have been an era of incredible brutalization when people stopped caring for each other. People stopped having group sex. They started fighting over women, fighting over territory, bashing each other's brains out, appointing leaders, developing weapons. The entire sick set of pathological institutions that leads to our dilemma was evolved in the wake of the invention of agriculture and the abandonment of nomadism and so forth and so on. And this is why I think we're so funny on the subject of drugs, because we are literally the children of a drug. There wouldn't be human beings on this planet had there not been this hominid-mushroom interaction over a very, very long period of time. The reason we addict so easily to so many substances and the reason people destroy their lives with various addictions is we have an itch that we just can't scratch. And we try everything. And I maintain that you'll keep itching and you'll keep scratching till you come to this very narrow family of hallucinogens, the tryptamine hallucinogens. Then the itch stops because you are restored to the archaic dynamic in which we created the most noble social systems that we have ever lived under, the archaic, nomadic, shamanic, goddess-worshipping world of the dawn time. And history is a fall away from that, exactly as these monotheistic religions insist. The fall into history. And I see then this emergent end of the world post-history millenarian culture as an attempt to reconnect with that archaic authenticity that was the birthplace of intellect, of poetry, of beauty, of love, and of altruism. Okay.
All right, guys. I really do have to go. My buddy's waiting on me. I'm in Tampa, Florida. It's 11 p.m. already now. So, if you've been chilling with me, if you've enjoyed the show at all, please hit the like and subscribe. I could really use the support. I hate having to say that every night, but that's what it's like, fighting the algorithms and trying to build your shit back after getting deleted. So anyway, thank you guys for hanging with me. This has been a lot of fun. This is the first time I brought up Terence on the stream. Again, I cover all kinds of shit on here. So anyway, and I'm on normally Monday through Friday. I get on around 8 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, guys, please hit the subscribe. I could use the support. I see I got a few more people tonight. I do appreciate that. I'm glad there's some. I wasn't sure. I decide whatever topics I'm going to get into, just sort of like on a whim. Sometimes I try to cover viral type of stuff to get some more engagement and whatnot. But generally, the stuff I cover is stuff I care about. And tonight I was like, man, I don't know that it might be dead in the stream tonight. I might not have a lot of viewers because it's Terence, and I don't know. I don't know who is into Terence on fucking YouTube and wherever, Facebook, Twitter, where I'm streaming. So, but it's cool. There's some people that are out here that are interested in Terence still and like to watch his stuff or are as crazy about him as I am, clearly. So I'm glad there's some other people out here that are interested in Terence stuff. So yeah, guys, I'll be covering Terence and some other cool topics and shit like that. Now that the election is over, we're a little bit more freed up. I'll be covering probably some political bullshit here and there, but yeah, it should be fun. We'll be covering a bunch of other random shit. By the way, I make my own royalty-free tracks for the show, and my buddy Fat Pig, who is in my stream every night, first person, he likes this one. So I'll be heading out here. Aiden, thanks for the sub. I just got the notification on my phone. Thank you guys. I appreciate the support. But yeah, here's Fat Pig's favorite outro song. You guys, I'm grinding here. So I really appreciate the support. I will see you guys. Should be back on Monday. I do the ice baths on Sunday, every other Sunday normally. I think I did it last Sunday, but I'm fucking sore. I might do it. I might hop on this Sunday and do one if I got time. But anyway, so I'll see you guys in a couple days or so. Have a safe weekend, and thanks for hanging with me. I love you guys. I love you lovers. God damn it. All right. See ya.